PTE Academic, or Pearson Test of English Academic, is the first entirely computer-based English language test for international study and immigration that is accepted across the world. Powered by artificial intelligence technology, PTE Academic provides a fast and convenient testing solution without human bias. The test assesses the 4 skills of speaking, listening, reading, and writing. It lasts approximately 3 hours and provides a score based on the GSE, Global Scale of English. PTE Academic scores are accepted by thousands of institutions and approved for all United Kingdom, Australian, and New Zealand visa and immigration categories. Test sessions can be scheduled up to 24 hours in advance, 365 days a year. PTE Academic is a totally computer-based exam, and the participant answers are totally evaluated by artificial intelligence. This eliminates any kind of human bias, especially for productive answers of speaking and writing. The exam is quite easy to book. All you need to do is just create an account on the website, log in, and choose the appropriate date and the exam center. Usually, your results come out in 5 working days, and this is the maximum days that you should be waiting for your score to come out. Once you have taken the exam, you can use the score for 2 consecutive years. The scores of the exam are now internationally accepted by thousands of institutions, especially universities all across Turkey and the world. You might be speaking with an accent that doesn't sound like a native speaker of English, but artificial intelligence does not discriminate between your accent and a native speaker. Also, the exam tests your skills in an integrated way. This means that if you are strong with one of the skills but have problems with another one, you can just support the weaker skill with your stronger one. Finally, on the day of the exam center is going to provide you with an erasable notepad and 2 pens. Throughout the exam, you can take notes on this notepad, and you can always use your notes to provide better answers for the questions. You can book your exam online at pearsonpt.com, and right now there is a standard price because of the differences in currency rates. You can choose one of the exam centers in Adana, Ankara, Bursa, Denizli, Erzurum, Istanbul, Izmir, and with the latest edition in Northern Cyprus. You can take the exam in the exam centers just showing your ID card, and this should be ideally your passport. Ankara Yıldırım Beyazıt University has been serving as one of the exam centers, and you can always take the exam online at the exam center at Genel campus on the available dates. The results of the exam are scored between 0 and 90. These scores are determined with the help of the Global Scale of English, and this is a thermometer-style scale that gives you an accurate overview of your skills. You can just find out more information about the GSE through the link on the screen. You can always compare your PT scores with the scores you will get from IELTS or TOEFL IBT. Once the results are ready, you will be emailed a portfolio such as this one that shows your overall score from the exam and the detailed scores from different sections. The exam assesses the 4 main skills of listening, reading, writing, and speaking, and the enabling skills of grammar, oral fluency, pronunciation, spelling, vocabulary, and written discourse. PTE Academic has got different number of questions for each exam, but the total scores that these questions add up to always remain the same. The table on the screen shows you the task name, the minimum or maximum numbers of questions for each task, and the total marks that you can get from each different task type. The exam is made up of 5 main parts. The introduction part at the beginning of the exam, the speaking and writing part, the reading part, an optional scheduled break of 10 minutes, and finally the listening part. The first part of the exam, assessing the skills of speaking and writing, is made up of 6 main sections. The first section, where participants are asked to make an oral personal introduction, lasts approximately 1 minute and it is not included in the total score of the exam. With different type of reading and writing questions, this part of the exam can last up to 95 minutes in total. However, this duration is highly tentative in accordance with the number of questions for each question type. Now let's have a look at each question type in the speaking and writing part. In this first section of the exam, the participants are asked to make an oral introduction about themselves, and they may talk about topics such as their interests, their plans for future study, why they want to study abroad, why they need to learn English, or why they choose this test. The exam provides participants with 25 seconds to get ready and 30 seconds to speak and record their answers. This section of the exam serves as a warm-up activity, and as it is not graded, it is not included in the total score. Section 2 of the speaking and writing part continues with the read aloud question type. In this section, test participants are provided a short paragraph and they are supposed to read the text while recording their voices. The participants have usually 6 or 7 tasks of this type and they are provided with 35 seconds to get ready. After the preparation, they will have 35 seconds to read the answer aloud and record their answers. In this section of the exam, you should not wait longer than 3 seconds because the artificial intelligence automatically assumes that you are not answering the question and your voice is not recorded. Also, you should not read mechanically or with a robotic voice. You should use natural intonation as if you are reading aloud to a group of audience in your daily life. Also, you can benefit from punctuation to help you adjust your speed of reading. Finally, you should never read too slowly or too fast. Section 2 continues with the question type of repeat sentence, during which you will hear a sentence and then repeat the sentence exactly as you hear it. Participants usually face 10 or 12 tasks of this question type, and they hear sentences in the length of 3 or 9 seconds. They will have exactly 15 seconds to speak and record their answers. Participants will listen to each recording only once. In this section of the exam, you should again not wait longer than 3 seconds, and you should not repeat mechanically with a robotic voice. You should copy the stress and the intonation of the original speaker, but you should never copy the accent. If you are speaking English with an American accent, please do not try to copy the British accent of the original speaker. Another question type in the section 2 is describe image, where you will be provided with a graph-like image and you will be asked to describe what you see on the graph. In the actual exam, participants might see 6 or 7 tasks of this type and they will be usually provided with 25 seconds to prepare their answers. When the preparation time is over, they will have exactly 40 seconds to speak and record their answers. The picture the participants will see is most probably going to be a graph. To achieve high scores in this section, you should never wait longer than 3 seconds, and you should focus on the main points on the graph. It is advised to use graph language, and using the 25 seconds to take notes during the preparation time is of utmost importance. The next question type you will see in section 2 of the speaking and writing part is retell lecture. For this specific question type, you will have to listen to a lecture first, and then you will be asked to paraphrase or summarize the lesson in your own words. Participants might see 3 or 4 tasks of this type in total, and usually the length of lectures varies between 60 and 90 seconds. Participants will have 10 seconds to read the introduction and have a look at the photo in order to get ready. After the preparation time is over, they will have exactly 40 seconds to speak and record their answers. The instructions of this particular question type is usually accompanied with an image to help you focus on the main topic. In this section of the exam, again you should not wait longer than 3 seconds, and you should focus on the main lesson topic. In this section, it's really important to use topic-specific vocabulary in order to score high. For example, if the topic is related to rocket science, use of vocabulary that's related to rocket science will help you score higher. Finally, instead of trying to copy the exact sentences of the lecturer, you should try to summarize and paraphrase what you will hear. The last question type in section 2 is answer short question, where you will hear a question and then provide a simple and short answer. Usually there are 10 or 12 tasks of this question type, and participants listen to questions in the length of 3 or 9 seconds. The system provides 15 seconds to record the answer. The most important tips for this part of the exam is not to wait longer than 3 seconds, to understand the question correctly, and to answer with only 1 or a few words. Remember, if you try to answer with longer sentences, the chances of making a mistake are also higher. Another particular question type that you might see in the 3rd, 4th, or the 5th sections of the exam is summarize written text. In this part of the exam, the participants are provided with a long text, and in their response, they are asked to summarize the paragraph in just 1 sentence. Usually there are 2 or 3 tasks of this type, and participants can see texts of up to 300 words. Participants can respond to this question type with a word limit between 5 and 75 words. There will be exactly 10 minutes to read and write the response. So, what's important for this specific question type? You should definitely make sure that you summarize the reading text in just 1 sentence. You should strictly respect the word limit, as artificial intelligence will definitely penalize sentences with words less than 5 and more than 75. You should start your sentence with a capital letter and finish your sentence with a full stop. It's always better to use a compound or complex sentence instead of a short, simple sentence. The last question type that you might be asked in the 6th section of speaking and writing part is write essay. Artificial intelligence usually asks 1 or 2 tasks of this type, and you will usually read an input text of up to 4 sentences. You will be asked to write with a word limit of between 200 and 300 words. You will have exactly 20 minutes to plan and write your essay. In order to get a high score for your essay, you should analyze the input text and note down the keywords that will help you focus on the main topic. You should strictly respect the word limit, as artificial intelligence will definitely penalize essays with words less than 200 and more than 300. Ideally, it's better to aim for 201 words, because a shorter essay will reduce the possibility of making grammar, vocabulary, or spelling errors in your essay. Before taking the exam, it's advisable to practice outlines for different essay types, such as problem solution, advantage-disadvantage, or opinion. Finally, please use paragraphs to separate your introduction, your supporting details, and your conclusion. Reading skill is the second part of the exam, and this part is made up of 5 different sections with distinct question types. This part of the exam lasts approximately 32 to 41 minutes depending on the number of different question types. Now let's have a look at each different question type and try to understand what they ask. The first question type that you can see in this part of the exam is fill in the blanks. You are given a moderate paragraph with blanks and you are asked to click on the gaps and choose the correct option for each gap. Usually, you might see 5 or 6 tasks of this type, and you can see texts of up to 300 words. For each paragraph, there will be maximum 6 random gaps, and for each gap, there will be 4 alternative answers to choose among. If you want to score high in this part of the exam, you should read before and after each gap for clues. You should definitely study collocations such as public transportation rather than isolated words such as public and transportation. It's good to study commonly confused words such as access and excess, as you will definitely see similar examples in the alternatives. Another question type for the reading part is multiple choice questions with multiple answers. There are usually 2 or 3 tasks of this type, and participants can be provided with reading texts of up to 275 words. You might see 5 or 7 alternatives for each question, and there will be more than one correct answer for each question. Differently than the other question types, you will lose 1 point for each incorrect answer in this section, but still, the minimum score you might get is 0. So, what strategies should we follow to answer this question type correctly? As different questions might be assessing different reading skills, it's a good idea to practice reading skills of gist reading, reading for specific information, identifying the writer's purpose, inferencing, guessing the meaning of the words from the context, the textual value of information, and stylistics related to the passage. You might be also asked to reorder paragraphs in the reading part. The system usually presents 2 or 3 tasks of this type, and there will be texts up to 250 words. These texts are divided into 4 or 5 jumbled sentences that are in incorrect order. To put these sentences in the correct order easily, you should find the topic sentence, supporting details, and the conclusion. It's also a good idea to pay attention to reference words such as pronouns. Finally, please pay attention to adverbials and conjunctions, as they might help you find the sentences before or after them. The exam has got another fill-in-the-blanks question type that's similar to the first one, but slightly different in terms of the layout. In this section, the participants are asked to choose among the alternatives and drag these words into the boxes. Usually there are 4 or 5 tasks of this type, and participants might read texts of up to 80 words. Below the text, there will be 6 or 7 words to choose among, and there will be 3 or 4 random gaps for each text. If you would like to find the missing words correctly, first you should read before and after each gap for clues, and you should study collocations such as public transportation rather than isolated words such as public and transportation. It's also a good idea to study commonly confused words such as access and excess. The last question type that you will see in the reading part is multiple choice questions with a single answer. You might see 2 or 3 tasks of this type, and you may come across reading texts of up to 1110 words. There might be 3 or 5 alternatives, and there is only one correct answer. Similarly, for this section of the exam, you should definitely practice different reading skills of gist reading, reading for specific information, identifying the writer's purpose, inferencing, guessing the meaning of vocabulary out of context, textual value, and stylistics of the passage. After the reading part is over, the computer is going to remind you about your 10 minutes optional scheduled break. However, you may directly skip this optional break and continue with the last part of the exam. The last part of the exam, listening, is made up of 2 sections and 8 different question types. This part may last up to 58 minutes, but as with the other parts of the exam, it's highly tentative, as it depends on the number of questions from each type of task. The first section of this part comes with the question type of summarize spoken text. In this section, participants first listen to a short lecture, and then they are supposed to write a summary of the lecture. It's possible to see 2 or 3 tasks of this type, and participants might listen to recordings of 60 to 90 seconds. With the summary they are required to write, they have to follow a word limit of 50 to 70 words. What are the strategies that we need to follow in this section? First of all, it's a good idea to note down the main points as you listen. Also, you need to check your grammar, punctuation, and spelling after you are done with your writing. As with the other writing tasks, it's of utmost importance to strictly respect the word limit. Otherwise, artificial intelligence will penalize paragraphs with number of words less than 50 and more than 70. The second section of this part is made up of 7 different question types, and the first one of these is multiple choice questions with multiple answers. The test system usually presents 2 or 3 tasks of this type, and usually participants have 7 seconds to read the question. Once these 7 seconds are over, they will listen to recordings of 40 to 90 seconds, and then they will be presented with 5 or 7 alternatives for each question. There will be more than one correct answer in this type of questions. Just as in the reading section, participants will lose -1 points for each incorrect answer. However, even if they get all the answers incorrect, the minimum score they will get will be 0. To be able to answer these questions correctly, it's really important to find key points in alternatives before listening. Also, it's definitely a good idea to make notes as you listen. Later, you can always refer to your notes to check your answers. Finally, it's advisable to study listening skills of listening for gist and listening for detailed information. Another question type that you might see in this section is fill in the blanks, during which test takers listen to a recording and then they type the missing words in the given blanks. Usually you can see 2 or 3 tasks of this type, and you can listen to recordings of 30 to 60 seconds. Each paragraph is presented with 4 to 7 random gaps, and the answers are typed by the test taker into these gaps. In order to complete this section efficiently, it's really important to use the notepad when you are not sure about the correct answer. Also, you should definitely pay attention to spelling, as misspelled words will be penalized. Making a blind guess when you're not sure is a good strategy for this question type, because no points are subtracted from your total score even if you get the answers incorrect. Next task type that we are going to have a look at is highlight correct summary, during which test takers listen to a recording and then they click on the paragraph that they think is the best summary of the recording. We might be presented with 2 or 3 tasks of this type, and it's possible for us to listen to recordings of 30 to 90 seconds. Under each recording, we will be provided with 3 to 5 short paragraphs of up to 60 words as alternatives, and only one of these paragraphs is directly related to the recording. So, what are the strategies that we can follow for this type of a question? It's really important to take notes as we listen. Also, we need to pay attention to keywords in the audio recording, because they might direct us to the correct summary. In listening part, there is also a multiple choice task type with a single answer. It's possible to see 2 or 3 tasks of this type, and we have 7 seconds to read the question. After that, we will be listening to a recording of 30 or 60 seconds. We will be provided with 3 or 5 alternatives for each question, and only one of these alternatives is the correct answer. To be able to successfully complete this specific task type, it's always a good idea to find key points in alternatives during that 7 seconds before listening. Also, you can always make notes as you listen so that you can later refer to these notes to check your answers. Finally, it's advisable to study listening for just and detailed information skills. Select missing word is one of the unique tasks that you can see in the section 2 of the listening part. For this specific task, you will listen to a recording about a specific topic, and towards the end of the recording, there will be a gap marked with a beep sound. All you need to do is just choose the correct word that you think completes this gap. There are 2 or 3 tasks of this type, and for each task there will be a recording of 20 to 70 seconds. You will be provided with 3 or 5 alternatives for each question, and the topic of the recording is usually stated in the instructions. Only one of these alternatives is the correct word that completes the recording. So, what are the tips that we can follow for this question type? First of all, it's a good idea to note down keywords as you listen, because you can later refer to these keywords to check your answer. Also, you can think about the answer before clicking on Next and use your time effectively. If you think your answer is incorrect, you can always click on the word again to deselect it and continue with another option. One of the final tasks of the listening part is highlight incorrect words, during which participants listen to a recording and also follow the recording through the transcription provided below. As they listen, they are required to click on words that they think do not belong to the recording. There will be 2 or 3 tasks of this type, and usually participants will listen to recordings of 15 to 50 seconds. There will be up to 7 incorrect words in each paragraph, and participants will lose -1 point for each incorrect answer. However, Even if they get all the answers incorrect, the minimum score they will get is still 0. If you would like to complete this specific question type successfully, it's a great idea to follow the text with the cursor of your mouse as you listen. This way, you can right away click on the word the recording did not say. The final task type that you will see at the end of the listening part, and also the whole exam, is write from dictation, during which you listen to a sentence and you are required to type the sentence in the exact way as you listen. There will be 3 or 4 tasks of this type, and participants are usually provided with recordings of 3 to 5 seconds. What is expected from us is to type exactly the same sentence that we listen to. The things we should be careful about here is listening for chunks and collocations rather than isolated single words. And also, it's always a good idea to pay attention to the correct order in the sentence. You must pay attention to spelling in your words, as artificial intelligence will penalize misspelled words. Finally, you should write as much of the sentence as you can hear, even if you think they are incorrect.